At just 6 years old, JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was a nationwide sensation in the United States. With deep blue eyes, shimmering blonde hair, and a radiant smile, she triumphed in a series of competitions such as the National Little Miss Beauty, Little Miss Charlevoix, Little Miss Colorado, and CoverGirl of Colorado. Therefore, many people had high hopes that the 6-year-old girl would become a leading star in the future. JonBenet Patricia was the pride of her family, the aspiration of many peers, and the most promising child beauty representative in the state of Colorado. But fate was cruel to JonBenet Patricia. The tragic news of her brutal murder in her own home on Christmas night, with family members as the prime suspects, shocked the entire nation. This is the haunting last video of little JonBenet Ramsey singing "Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree" on December 22nd, 1996, just 3 days before she was brutally murdered. She is performing at a local shopping center, where she plays a plastic saxophone and receives a warm round of applause from the shoppers. 28 years have passed, yet the case remains unanswered. But now, investigators are revisiting everything. They believe that with advancements in technology, the case might finally be solved. Why would such an innocent girl like JonBenet meet such a tragic end? And who is responsible for this heartbreaking loss? On the morning of December 26, 1996 in Boulder, Colorado, Patsy Ramsey claimed to have found a ransom note for her 6-year-old daughter, JonBenet Ramsey, on the back staircase inside their house. This prompted Patsy to call the police at 5:52 a.m. to report JonBenet as missing. Inside the house at the time were John Ramsey, her father, Patsy Ramsey, her mother, and Burke Ramsey, her 9-year-old brother.
What's going on there, ma'am?
We got kidnapping. There's a ransom note here.
It's a ransom note?
Please.
Okay, what's your name? Are you
Patsy Ramsey, I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please.
The content of the letter is as follows. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attached to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money, and hence an earlier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The 2 gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as the police, FBIs, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory. While JonBenet remained missing, John had arranged to pay the ransom. A team of forensic experts was summoned to the house. Initially, they thought the child had been kidnapped, as JonBenet's bedroom was the only area in the house sealed off to preserve evidence. However, no measures were taken to prevent contamination of police evidence in the rest of the house. Meanwhile, friends and supporters of the Ramsey family poured into the house to express sympathy. Well-meaning visitors cleaned the kitchen, potentially unwittingly erasing evidence. Detective Linda Arndt of Boulder arrived around 8 a.m., hoping for a message from the kidnapper, but no one came to claim the money. Officer Rick French descended to the basement, arriving at a securely bolted wooden door. He paused before it, contemplating for a moment before advancing without opening it. The reason, French explained, was that he was searching for an escape route the kidnapper had utilized, a route sealed off by this locked door, and beyond the wooden barrier lay the body of JonBenet. In a bizarre turn of events, JonBenet Ramsey's body was discovered less than 8 hours later. Even more oddly, her body was found inside the Ramsey residence, in the utility room in the basement. Her father, John Ramsey, made the grim discovery. JonBenet was found with duct tape covering her mouth and a cord wrapped tightly around her neck, and her torso was covered in a white blanket. In the room where the incident occurred, the police found a bowl of pineapple with a spoon inside.
Tape off her mouth and her hands were bound, and I couldn't get the knot untied. It was really tightly tied. She had been strangled with a garrote. It was so deeply embedded in her skin that I didn't see it.
During the crime scene investigation, the fingerprints of her brother were found on the bowl of pineapple. However, her parents insisted that their son was asleep when the incident occurred. The victim's necktie had special knots that only someone with expertise could untie. The tie was made from thin rope with two ends tied by a brush handle, depicting the connection between the brush handle and brush bristles found in Mrs. Pasty's art supplies box. The crime scene was contaminated, is anyone surprised at this point, when her father picked up her body and moved it upstairs. All of the Ramsey family provided samples of their handwriting, blood, and hair to the police. The parents were in a preliminary interview for more than 2 hours, and Burke was interviewed within the first couple of weeks after his sister's death. JonBenet Ramsey, a famous beauty pageant contestant, won at least 5 pageants. Her death was determined to be a homicide, which is unusual as typically in missing person cases, the body isn't found in the home. The JonBenet Ramsey case is full of mysteries. The case surrounding the death of American child beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey remains one of the biggest and most perplexing mysteries, not only in the United States but also worldwide, attracting the attention of numerous experts and investigators. No formal charges have ever been brought. By October 1997, the police had 1,600 persons of interest on their list. There are 2 main theories: the family did it, or it was an intruder. The autopsy results indicated that JonBenet was beaten to death, while the county coroner ruled that she died from strangulation causing asphyxia. A paintbrush from Patsy's hobby kit was used to tighten the ligature strangling JonBenet. In December of 2003, technology had advanced to where enough material could be extracted from the mixed blood sample found on JonBenet's underwear to put together a DNA profile. The blood belonged to an unknown male, and none of the Ramseys were a match. The sample was not in the FBI's DNA index system that contained 1.6 million samples. After the family tragedy, JonBenet Ramsey moved to Atlanta, and the incident gradually faded into oblivion. In September 2008, the Colorado state authorities officially sent a public apology letter to the Jonist family regarding the unfounded accusations they had endured for many years. Then, in October of 2016, technology was even further advanced, and they could differentiate genetic markers from 2 unknown individuals, not including JonBenet. There were 6 additional traces of unknown male DNA found on the cord and paintbrush. Through all of the various stages of the forensic investigations show that there was an identical DNA sample that is believed to be from the killer. There isn't any definitive evidence that the stranger is the murderer because trace amounts of evidence can be found on items through a bunch of non-suspicious means. However, a team of experts re-examined and analyzed evidence from the case 20 years ago to reach a last-minute conclusion. The real perpetrator was Burke Ramsey, then 9 years old. They also revealed that Burke had previously lost his temper and hit his sister with a golf club, causing her to have a scar on her face a year before the horrific event took place. James Kohler, former head of the investigation team in Boulder, presented a theory agreed upon by all other experts. At 10 p.m., after a trip out, the 2 siblings returned home and started arguing about the delicious-smelling durian. Albert got angry, and his older brother used a flashlight to hit his sister on the head. The biggest suspicion in this case lies in the uncooperative attitude of the Ramsey family. They refused to cooperate in finding the perpetrator. While investigators agree there was no intent to murder, nor do they believe Burke was involved in staging a cover-up, they concur that there was a clear effort to mislead the police investigation. The Ramsey family did not want this case to be resolved, which is why it remains a mystery until now, former FBI criminal behavior analyst Jim Clemente said. He and other investigators argue that the Ramsey family's lack of cooperation in the investigation is atypical of most families in similar situations seeking to find the culprit and solve the case. Moreover, in a segment aired, a 6-second excerpt from the family's 911 call from 20 years ago was released. Using modern technology, investigators identified voices of 3 individuals conversing after Mrs. Ramsey thought she had hung up after calling the police, presumed to be the victim's family members, John, Patsy, and Burke. In it, the father's voice is heard saying, "We're not talking to you," before the mother asks, "What did you do? Oh my God, help me." The voice of the older brother Burke is heard asking, "What did you find?" despite both parents insisting he was asleep at the time.
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
The recipient of this crucial phone call, Kim Archuleta, also revealed for the first time that she felt the call had been pre-staged. She spoke as if, "Well, we've called the police, what else now?" And that caught my attention. So I kept the line open, trying to listen for more sounds, hearing what seemed like two voices in the room, possibly three different voices. Archuleta affirmed, "One reason why I kept the line open until it disconnected is because something was going to be said and people needed to know." Another notably significant point is a 3-page ransom note analyzed by linguistics expert James Fitzgerald, who asserts deliberate fabrication with intentional errors. This note, found on the staircase, led to the discovery that JonBenet was missing from her room. Moreover, despite the threatening letter not being reported to the authorities and the ransom being paid as requested, Patsy still made the 911 call, only for the anticipated call from the kidnappers to never arrive. Instead, hours later, JonBenet's lifeless body was tragically discovered in the basement. But who is the real perpetrator? The accurate answer still holds many mysteries. That would be Gary Oliva, a 54-year-old, currently serving a 10-year sentence for possessing child pornography. He wrote a letter from prison in Colorado, confessing his crimes over 20 years ago. "I've never loved anyone like JonBenet Ramsey, and I made her fall and hit her head on a rock. I saw her die. It was an accident," Gary Oliva wrote in that letter. In another letter, he described JonBenet's radiant beauty and admitted to committing other acts of sexual abuse against children. "I admit to killing JonBenet as well as perpetrating other assaults on young children," Gary Oliva wrote in that letter. These letters were sent to Oliva's music publisher, Michael Myers. This is substantial evidence to conclude that Oliva is the perpetrator of the heinous act against JonBenet Ramsey over 22 years ago. Border police are currently investigating these letters. Many suspects have been investigated, but none have been charged due to insufficient evidence. With this latest detail, many hope that the JonBenet Ramsey case, a case that has haunted the world, will soon be clarified after many years of frustration. Despite lingering suspicions over the past 20 years, the conclusions drawn by experts, aided by analyses revisiting the case's history and modern technologies, still manage to evoke astonishment and disbelief, especially when we revisit the investigative process surrounding JonBenet's death.